We usually do this during the slow periods. We just run it on YouTube. So here we go. A little Friday feedback with Kyle and Wargon. Your thoughts on the show. Summer edition, Friday feedback. We've got Kyle. We've got Wargon. Friday feedback, RR at Gmail. Probably won't do another one for a while. So I don't even remember if we did this one already, though. This is the last one we did in April. Wargon, do you remember one criticizing me for being fascinated with you?
I told you guys, as soon as we finish recording, the mind goes blank.
Okay.
I didn't even know I was on that episode. Shout out to Frias for letting me know. So take a shot.
Well, apparently not fascinated enough. So, all right, let's see here. What do we have? There was basically, all right, there's a criticism of Kyle here. So I didn't mean to start off on a negative note here. Right. That doesn't mean it has to be all negative. All right. Sounds like Kyle really wants that TV. I feel like Kyle has been laying the laughs on extra thick as of late for Ryan's jokes and hopes it will get him that free TV. We'll continue to monitor the situation. Thank you for your attention on this matter.
No, I think you're funny. And I think that the way you read emails is really funny. And I'm in talks with the TV guy direct now. So, let me know if you notice a change.
I shouldn't have started this because now I've ruined my own laughs. Now you're going to be conscious of it because we have another one, laugh track. Kyle, not everything is the funniest thing ever. You don't have to laugh at everything Ryan says, but you just stated your case. Do you think I'm funny?
I think the cadence is good. Sometimes that's all it takes, I like comedy. I understand it doesn't all have to be slapstick humor. Come on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know when I get Kyle good, makes me feel good. Because like the visuals of it, he turns to the side.
Wow. Sounds like the price of the brick is going up. So you're going to have to step it up, buddy.
Wargon, do you think Kyle laughs too much?
No.
Okay. It's been decided.
I just hope I don't turn into one of those guys like at the bar who ends up with like a pirate laugh. And I think that just maybe your voice changes. But like, I just hope it doesn't get there one day where it's, makes people like cringe when they just hear the sound. Listen, if you hear it too much, whatever, that's a preference thing. But I hope it doesn't ever turn into something else. Okay. Because I do laugh a lot.
Another one for Kyle. How does Kyle like working for the press box? I'm a listener of all things The Ringer. It seems like Brian and David are big fans of yours, Kyle. How is being editor for their show different than the Russillo podcast? I would love to hear a life advice with you three on their show. Also, Ryan, with AI, I was able to create spark notes of all books. Do you ever see yourself using it to create spark notes of the long Ron Chernow books before deciding to read them? I'm struggling to get through his JP Morgan book. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever do that. I mean, maybe it's an awesome way to do it. Certainly with Chernow. I mean, the Twain book is long. I mean, that was long, but I actually think it was a quicker read. There's a lot of it's just whatever the type is in the book. And how words simply is like, how do they decide to put the pages together? So I think there's some Chernow books where I'm like, man, 10 pages is a chore. And Twain, I thought I could get through like 20 to 30. And then when I really had to crank it up more later on. But I don't think I would ever do that. I mean, I'll go back and read stuff. Not, this is going to make it sound like I think I'm so cool, but it's more of, I get frustrated when I'm not retaining stuff. You're not going to retain everything that you're reading, but I don't think I would ever do that. But Kyle, I think that question was more geared towards you and being the editor of both of these shows. How is that different?
I don't know. I mean, I love the press box. I'll say that it feels like here's the thing I could say is, I didn't listen to the Ryen Russillo show before it was Dual Threat. And then Ryan, so when I came in cold and I was like, how does this guy do it? I listened to the press box forever. Like I don't miss an episode. So there was a little bit of like magic there. And this is certainly not a knock. It's just like the magic's certainly gone. I'm on the emails now and production threads and shit. So it used to just be like, I wonder what these guys are going to talk about. Now I fucking know. But I really do enjoy working on the press box. And Brian Curtis is I think one of the smartest folks that we've got either in this company, in this space, whatever. It's been awesome. And Joel's the man too. Shout out to David Shoemaker. Shoemaker, actually, the one who used to be in charge of putting down the company credit card when we'd go for Ringer drinks. was a long time ago, but me and Shoemaker go way back. So it's nice. Feels like a little bit of a homecoming, whereas Ryan was sort of like, I don't think this guy likes me. So it's like, it's certainly a different start. Let's put it that way. But both very organized.
Okay, this is one about Ceruti, but I guess we could speak to it. Cut Ceruti on life advice. He's boring AF and has zero Riz. I think he's misspelled Riz, but
1Z? I don't know how you do.
2 Z's, I would think.
I think it's 2 Z's.
Yeah, he did it with 1.
Yeah. Does that hurt?
Now who has no Riz?
Yeah.
This seems
That
like
hurts.
a take that's like, just like people think it's cool to have, like, oh yeah, you think Nickelback sucks? Fuck you. Sometimes it's good.
Nickelback's
Actually.
great.
I know. So I just think it's one of those things that some people can pile on. Well, listen, I'm not saying like I turn onto the highway and I'm searching
Is Ceruti
through it for
Nickelback?
that. That's a good question. It's a good question.
I like Nickelback a lot, man. They got some bangers.
When's the last time you listened to him?
Within the last month, for sure.
Probably in the
That
last
might be why
2
this
years
might-
for me.
Yeah.
But I think I remember too. I think I was like slosh doing a walk home, and I was like, you know, it'd be fucking great right now. And I don't know how great it was or wasn't to like the, my normal balanced self, but dude, at that moment, I thought it was great.
Ceruti, there's like a typical guy that doesn't like Ceruti, and I don't know what they want from him.
Yeah, the virgins.
Wow. Enough said.
How's that for feedback?
Didn't need anything else on that one. All right. Is there any way to have Ryan announce his appearances on other podcasts? Like a quick update. I was on these 2 pods this week. Take a listen. Probably not. I don't go on that many other things because this job in itself and the other stuff that I'm doing, it's tougher when you have to do 3 to 4 things a week. And then you're like, hey, can you do some of these other ones? And I don't really have the time for it. So I usually will go on PMT a couple times a year. I'll go on Colin's show a couple times a year. I'll go on Chris Long's show a couple times a year. I think I owe Foxworth a show, which I plan on doing. But I don't know exactly when. So I just wouldn't be, I appreciate the query, but I would just basically say there's no way that it would be relevant enough. We've got about 50 emails on the mile time. So I think we'll probably move on from that.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Can we go abroad? All right. Longtime listener since SVP days, ex-college, like to lift, but no impressive stats. 530 mile one, Steve Blake basketball comp, meaning he's basically just my favorite player. Simple question. Can we go abroad once in a while, especially in light of the new F1 movie? P.S. Reading the Churn Out Twain book. Dude is bummed out quite a bit. Yeah, it was a bummer of a book. It's a good book. It's Chernow. So if you like Chernow, you're a huge fan. But I loved getting to talk with him. But that book, the last 400 pages of that book, I was kind of like,
The last
what?
400 pages.
Yeah, the last
Come on.
400, I was trying to figure out like what was going on with me and my mood. I was like, you've been kind of like in a funk a little bit the last few days. I was like, oh, it's because I still have more Twain to go.
Damn. To not look
Yeah.
forward to the last 400 pages. That sounds rough.
Well, I wanted
know
to
if I'm
read it, and I
committed
certainly
enough.
wanted to read it if I was having him on. But just every fucking chapter towards the end, you were like, what? Like this happened? And then he went through some weird Shakespeare truther phase where he was convinced that Shakespeare was a complete fraud because somebody had given him this book and laid out a pretty compelling case. It was essentially a
fake
conversion.
news.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Twain, I would say this. Twain would go on Bill Maher a lot, and it would probably go over well. Twain would tweet incessantly. So I don't know if he'd end up being like a Keith Olbermann type that then would end up like having half of the country hate him. So yeah, if you're as opinionated as Twain was then today, then the approval rating wouldn't be as high because you get to live as kind of this mythical creature that reporters could always go up to. And he was still, the guy could spin a yarn, man. You got to give it to Twain. He could put some words together in a really funny way. And it seemed like that talent never fully escaped him, where some people start doing impersonations of themselves. But there's so much tragedy in his life that it was, I want to say it was like I had a tough time getting through it, but I think it was actually started to put me in a bad mood because I was like speed reading it towards the end, trying to get it caught up so I'd be done before we had Chernow on. So,
so there was a little more Twain in you than you wanted to admit, huh? Sort of like how they say Jim Gandolfini towards the end of Sopranos is like, I think he was taking Tony home, you know?
You're right. That's perfectly said.
And so
maybe
are you going to
there's-
go abroad again or no? When's the last time you dropped that sound clip in a podcast?
Well, we had George
That
Russell
insane
on.
matchup. Of
I know.
sounds.
I was proud of that one
He
because
was.
there was like a couple guys from Australia that got it. They like knew
it
what
was
it
for
was.
those 5 guys.
Yeah.
I could tell when he sent me like 4 clips, and it was like, there's something about the budget that we're going to put here, and then we're going to do like, can you do this like garbled interview of this F1 driver while he's driving, and can you find some weird like below deck med type music to put on? I was like, what the fuck?
Can we put that clip in this right now so that people can hear it? So just when we edit this, put that clip in. This was the Going Abroad intro. Now, when we would do that, it was every now and then we'd have Ceruti do a soccer thing, but the origin of it was Kevin Clark because we were so into F1. And then Clark got his own F1 show at Ringer, and that basically killed Going Abroad. Right. And then Clark ends up at ESPN, and we're just, you know, have him on, we're going to talk football. I actually watched a few F1 races going back to Russell's win at Montreal, and I went, you know, it's still a great product. I still really enjoy this. But there was probably no way I was going to sustain waking up at like 4:35 a.m. to watch the late season races before a full slate of NFL. Because I was like, you're not going to keep doing this. So I still am a fan. I'm just not as locked in as I used to be. All right. Virgins. Hey, Ceruti, are you watching the show on TLC? Thoughts if you are. Can someone forward that question to him when he's back?
We'll let him know, yeah.
List. So there's a show called Virgins?
Yes.
All right, yeah, I don't want to Google that. This is
Smart.
my work computer.
All right. Ryan's self-awareness spiral. Hey, gang, 27, 5'10", 180, 250 bench, 365 squat. Been clocking in a 39-minute 10K. Shout out Wargon, resident theater running consultant.
That was a nod, if anyone could not see.
That's pretty good.
Nodded at that.
Thank you. That's all we needed from you. My feedback is simple. Ryan is so self-aware, it's almost to his detriment. I agree self-awareness is probably your biggest ally in socially navigating the world, and Ryan is the final boss of it. He's also aware of how he's being perceived. He's aware that he's aware of it. Philosophers could be stumped by that one. Ryan builds counter-arguments to almost every point he makes as if he already knows the pushback before anyone says anything. Same with flexing about his own life or career. He could brag, but doesn't because he already is thinking about what people would come at him for sounding arrogant. Ryan is playing social awareness chess out here, and I've always wondered if he's actively thinking about this or knows it about himself, or is it naturally built up from people tearing apart every possible take? Love the pod. Girlfriend is Kyle's #1 fan.
Don't hear that often.
Well, when you do, feels nice.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm aware of it. Right?
That would be insane if you weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great observation. It's totally accurate. And some parts of it I love, and some parts of it I don't love. I'd say on the personal part of it, you know, when I was younger and I was on the air, you know, it's funny kind of thinking about like the schedule of how things can go. It was like all of a sudden it went from there's no way this can happen to all of a sudden. And then 4 years after I'm bartending, I'm at ESPN. And then 7 years later, I'm with Van Pelt, whatever. So I would say, especially once I was on the afternoon show with Scott, there was an insecurity because I wasn't coming from somewhere else. I was just kind of out of nowhere, worse fill-in shifts. Scott wanted to do the show with me. I knew no one wanted me to do the show with him. So I think your fear in that, even though it would have been nice if it was just like, hey, you're good, or you're going to be good, or whatever you are, like, just keep doing your thing. And there's actually something that Tarico had called me very early on to say, hey, however you're doing the show, however you decided, like, just keep doing the way you're doing things and you're going to be fine. And it meant a lot. But there was a want because I was young for it. And because I was always going to be a little insecure before I felt like I had arrived, because your job is for the public consumption. It's a daily performance. And I think the surrounding factors also made me more insecure about it than I wanted to be. So the counter to that was I kind of wanted to be the coolest guy on all of these thoughts. Like I never wanted to be wrong, but I never wanted to feel like I was uncool. I knew I socially, whatever sphere of like coolest guy of all time to biggest nerd ever, whatever that actually means. I don't know. I felt comfortable about where I was on that. But what you learn is that when you're doing something like this job, you can't be the coolest guy every fucking time, because then it just sounds like that actually ends up being a more insecure version of whatever it is that's going on in your head. So I think as things have gone better for me, and I'm very content with where I'm at, my life professionally and all that kind of stuff, I want to still make sure that I'm, calling myself out for stuff or making fun of myself. Because I probably don't do it a ton as it is, but there's other people that I see that are like willing to do it 0% of the time. And I don't know. I think eventually the audience finds it like a little off-putting, even if you feel like it's a shtick. It can kind of turn on
problem. I'm
just
kidding.
Because I know that there's certainly, some elements of like, I think there's some, I don't know what the numbers would be, but I think there's a lot of people that want me to be a huge loser. Why I don't have a wife, why I don't have a family, people that want to make fun of me not having
me that in the wild.
Yeah, right. And people that want to make fun of me because the screenwriting thing hasn't gone as well as I had hoped at this point. And there's certainly some shit I could say that would, I could defend myself. I could say, well, actually, but what's the fucking point? Like at this stage of my life, at this age, it doesn't matter. And nobody changes their mind anyway. It's like, you know what? Actually, wow, you've totally convinced me that, whatever it is that I thought was wrong, whatever. So I think there's some personal self-awareness that's just nicer to have as opposed to whatever version of me when I was younger. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know why I was doing it. Now I understand it better that I'm a little bit older. As far as the arguments on like, hey, this is what this team is doing or what this team isn't doing or that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, with Twitter, it made all of us as hosts worse. Like there's still hosts that I think are good, but we're all collectively worse because of it. And you can look at it all day. You can not look at it, but it's very human nature. Like we used to have this message thing where you could text us while you were not our personal numbers, but you could text into some show text number when we were doing shows at ESPN. And this was before Twitter had really taken off. And it was instant feedback from everybody listening to you. And it was
awesome.
Awful. It was the dumbest fucking thing. And then once Twitter took over, you could see that every host, for the most part, was checking their phones to see what everybody just said about the segment that they just did. So we're on like 15 years of this now. Now, I don't look at it the way that I used to. When I post a show, I don't care. I can post a thought. I can look at a couple things. I just know what it is before I've already signed up for it. But if you've done this job, for the few of us that have done it for this long, we've now conditioned ourselves to lay out talking points where we're already defending it against what we know will exist. And again, I think it's actually made us worse. I think in some cases, I like to go, hey, here's what I think. Here could be the counter arguments. I know some people think it's like awful how often I do that. Part of it's just wanting to lay out the point and then come to the conclusion of the original thing that I thought in the first place. But there's an inherent understanding that no matter what you do now, and this is another thing that's very weird with where we're at in this portion of society, but it's like, okay, somebody has a thought, and now I am going to try to find all the ways they could potentially be wrong about that thought. And that's really what discussion has become. Like, is there a chance this person fucked this up, and then I'm going to feel better about myself for pointing out their fuck up or the point that they forgot, or it's something they probably didn't forget but didn't say, but then I'll remind them, and then I'm going to feel a little bit better because they have a job that I actually fucking wanted. It just gets really, really weird where it's a cycle of the person on the air is already like preemptively, like they're already digging the trenches while they're actually making the point. So
that's what Friday feedback's all about, dude, right there.
Yeah. So yes, I'm aware.
Short answer, yes.
All right. There's another one. Ryan's counting down instead of up with lifting. 5'10" and 3/4, not close enough to round up to 6 feet. 180, bench 225 once or twice, depending on the day. Love that. Ryan mentioned picking a tough number and counting down when lifting instead of counting up. Instead of, again, saying 1, 2, 3. Just count down, go 11, 10, 9. What a difference! Exclamation point. While doing sideline dumbbell chest press this morning, I got 6 reps on the first set. On the second set with the same weight, I set my goal for 7 and counted down. I blew right past 7 and got 8 reps. Used the countdown technique on the third set and got 8 again. Who knew Ryan is the Sigmund Freud of weightlifting?
Hell yeah.
I did. P.S. I met Ryan at Ruffino's the night before LSU Bama 2012. He said my purple shirt looked maroon in the lighting. I never wore it again.
You have affected this man in so many ways.
I was also in the crowd for SVP and Russillo on campus for LSU, Texas A&M in 2013 and watched Ryan struggle through his personal flu game after getting, quote, good poisoning the night before. Yeah, a lot of accusations on that one. I actually did get sick and was luckily dating someone in the medical field at that time. And they got me some sort of shot, like an emergency care, which I'm not good with that stuff. It's like, oh, I'm sick. I guess I'm just going to be sick for a couple of days. And I remember being at dinner. I remember inhaling and I was like, uh-oh. And I felt something in my throat and I was like, I'm going to be sick. And I was down for the count. It was bad. But then everybody was like, no, he isn't. He went to Baton Rouge. He saw all of his buddies.
Do the math.
Yeah, there's no way.
So are you saying you're better about, like, because that's the same way I am. It's like, oh, I'm sick. When I know some people will be like, oh, let me just run in and get the Z-Pack or whatever for their cold. I'm just like, this is what I get, and my body will do its thing. So you're saying you've worked your way out of that, and you'll go like get the symptom reliever or whatever.
No, but that blew my mind because after I got this shot or whatever it was, because she knew exactly. She's like, you're going to go see this guy. I'm going to get you. You have to go do this. And then, I mean, I was like fever spiraling, whatever I got. I was like out, like just a mess. Couldn't. It was bad. I mean, it was like really, really sick. And that turned everything around. So what was going to be like a long window of recovery started immediately. I do think a lot of that has to do with what kind of access you have to health insurance. So
yeah,
being one of many kids, my father wasn't in a hurry to get us to the doctor's office.
Shout out to ginger ale.
Yeah, right. You know, get you some crackers. Right. We'll get the space heater on you.
What is it? Feed the fever or starve the cold? Which is it?
I don't know.
We're doing one of them.
We would try to burn it, sear it on both ends.
So it doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, there was some stuff. So then after that, when you have no money, you don't really think about health insurance, and then you think of it as an expense and you don't think of it like there's definitely, you could look into this and the awareness of like your own personal health and the education of it. A lot of it can be determined on your finances and not understanding like, hey, there's actually stuff that you can do and turn this stuff around. And so even at that age, like how old would I have been at that point? 30, I don't know, 32 or something. I probably should have been old enough, but I still was in that younger phase of like, I guess I'm sick and I'm just going to deal with it. Anyway, that's not even the point of this whole thing. The point is the counting down in reverse. I'm telling you, it's a real thing. It is a mental thing. Your body will shut down sooner than it has to based on the mental anticipation of when something that is difficult, the exertion of something physical, when it is done. Think about a finish line, right? And how you just start sprinting towards it. And then as you're getting real close to it, and then you feel like you've given everything you had. It was like, actually, if it were another 100 yards, you would have been fine. You're not nearly as spent. Your body just wants to shut it down quicker. So what I decided to start doing was, if I wanted a lot of reps on something and I wanted to push myself, I would start at a number that I didn't think I was going to finish. And I would always end stronger than if I just went to 8, because like if it was a really heavy weight, 7 was really difficult. Maybe I don't even get 8. And I felt like, no, the mind is already anticipating that it's almost over. And I'm working against it. I got 20 pull-ups the other day. 20. Do you want to know what the counting was? I picked a stupid number and I was blasting through it. I said 10. And then I just said 10 again. We got to 7. I was like 7 again.
Wow.
Yeah. So maybe we just end there. Who's your hero? Sorry. That was less self-aware. All right. I'm not sure today's show's killer.
Oh, don't say that.
I have to give myself feedback. Can we finally address
Ceruti? You're a genius. Somebody's talking shit about me, you know?
I noticed you're not laughing a ton.
Just give me time.
Can we finally address Wargon's Nightwing fandom? Fellas, let's jump right into something that's eluded Ryan, Kyle, and Ceruti for far too long. Wargon's not so surprising choice of Robin over Batman. In the early days of Kyle joining Life Advice, Ryan would offer, admire, and comment on Kyle's choice of decor in the background. This has not been the case for our guy Wargon. We know about Wargon's love for the theater and admiration for Disney, but I could not help noticing his alluring Tales of the Teen Titans 44 GCG graded 9.4 signed by what appears to be the late great artist George Perez. As we all know, this is the first appearance of Dick Grayson as Nightwing, formerly Robin, and Wargon has paired this with his seminal issue of the New Teen Titans #1 CGC graded 9.2, unfortunately not signed. My question is this: what has drawn Wargon to the character of Dick Grayson over all other Robins and even Batman himself? How would he characterize the members of this pod to other members of the Bat family or Teen Titans? Is he a Batgirl or Starfire kind of guy? Inquiring minds need to know.
3-parter.
That's a long question. Yeah, I like Nightwing. I don't know. He's just like a fun character, and I was drawn to him. I don't really know
That's
what else
all
to
you
say.
got. You're like a man of the
know.
theater. You're like you're digesting these big concepts in real time, and all you got is I
know.
like him.
I do have 3 shows coming up in the next like month and a half.
Hell yeah!
What do we
Very
got?
excited. What's up?
Well, what do you got going? What's cooking?
What shows?
Yeah,
I'm doing Mamma Mia in England when I'm there for the honeymoon.
of course.
Maybe Happy Ending early August, and then Heathers end of August.
All right, I went 1 for 3 on those titles.
Nice. Maybe Happy Ending's very new.
Okay. I got gifted tickets to a Neil Diamond musical at the Pantages this weekend, but as you know, I have a commitment for my boy, so I couldn't go.
There we go.
So I'm going to see if maybe somebody wants him. But Neil Diamond musical.
There'll be
That would've been my first.
some show tunes played at the wedding. Don't worry.
Well, you're home, Ryan. Do you want to go to Neil Diamond? Not with me, obviously. I'm going to Wargon's wedding, which will already have happened. Oops.
Yeah, this will have already all happened.
A little look behind the curtain here.
Looks like it.
This is how it's made, folks.
Yep. A little different than the press box. I don't know. I feel like we really ISO'd for you on this Wargon, and you passed.
Yeah, I wish I had more. It's just I was drawn to the character. I think he's
What
a little.
What drew you? Like,
Yeah, I just think he's a bit more interesting. How about that? Where it's like Batman sort of has all the trauma and like is still kind of a fuck up at heart. Like he's mentally just not getting any better.
Now we're
Whereas I
getting
feel like Nightwing kind of, he healed emotionally and mentally and was able to live like a normal life afterward. So I just found that appealing.
That's more like it, Wargon.
Thanks.
What a great way. You didn't want to, like, hey, it was like Twain. Like, all right, buddy, we get it.
I am a big Nightwing fan though.
Any tattoos?
I'll be wearing my hat tonight, going to see Superman.
Oh, that's right. No, already happened.
I know. We'll have to get a review. I guess we'll actually be able to get a review on the next show that we tape for this. But yeah, depending on when this comes out. All right, not everything is insane. I'd agree. Hello, gentlemen. Starting off with my stats, 42 years old, 178. Just started going to a regular gym after 5 years of F45, so not sure on my max, but I can bench 175 for a couple sets of 10. Great work. I can work on my squat numbers. Player comp used to be YMCA TJ McConnell. However, I think he's upped his game last year, so I would say YMCA Luke Ridnour. Scrappy, undersized white guy that out-rebounds the tall fellas and can kind of shoot. Lives in Seattle. Bring back our Sonics. Would love to hear your comps and if they'd be available.
What an intro.
Here's my feedback. Not everything has to be insane just because you don't agree with it. It feels like this is targeted towards our guy Ceruti. It's because it is. Damn, Ceruti's just
catching strays today. They're not even strays. They're right at him.
Yeah, they're not strays at all.
Premeditated.
This comes from a place of love because I have no ill will towards anyone on the pod. I just want to thank all of you for the hours of entertainment you've provided. But what grinds my gears is that anytime Steve seems to disagree with a take, behavior, or preference. I was reading too fast. His go-to move is to call that insane. His take on leaving the theater with popcorn to eat the next day or however long he hoards it is not what I would do, but I wouldn't call it insane behavior. That's his thing, not mine.
Okay.
I wasn't a huge fan of that.
I might call that insane. I don't know.
Maybe just have our guy be more conscious of the spectrum that is, I don't agree with this. And this is actually insane behavior, and they probably should be studied by scientists or potentially be in prison.
Okay. I think Ceruti's got like a good, solid head on his shoulders. He's a father or two. I think he thinks a little differently. And I think there's certain things that are just outside his realm of possibilities. And for him, it might be insane. It's also a figure of speech, guy. I mean, open your eyes a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're giving him too hard of a time for the figure of speech. I think ultimately
he's not suggesting that people should be institutionalized for thinking that.
Yeah, we kind of, towards the end of that email, he started like doing the definition of insanity. And it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But it's feedback,
although
I guess.
we asked for this. We did ask for the feedback. He does get really, when he goes to the insane move, he's usually pretty passionate about it.
Yep, that's true.
Right.
So that's his code word, He's for I'm fired up. And I'm hearing it a lot. Now I'm hearing it in my head. I'm like, that's insane. I've got his cadence in my I know what he's talking about, but it doesn't bother me.
Office Fight. Big fan of the show. I listen every day. Back in 2013, I was listening to an Orlando Magic game on the radio. The next day, I got in the car. SVP and Russillo was on while I was driving to work. I had never listened to sports radio podcasts before then, but that's basically all I listen to now. Safe to say, I think you're doing an all right job. Thank you. My best friend and I have been waiting for the longest to hear about the desk guy who got the calendar invite to meet on the roof. I know you mentioned getting a bunch of emails about it. Have you emailed him asking for an update? Did he get his ass whooped? Is he fired? Is the construction done and the guy back in his office? Is he in a coma? Did he get thrown off the roof? We need answers. Keep doing what you're doing. And P.S. no shirts. Well, you don't have any updates, man. Here's the question. If you got your ass kicked, would you email and go, hey, guys, guess what? I got my ass kicked.
No, that's insane. How do you like that?
Yeah, no way. Do you ever email asking for a follow-up for people? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, really, it's really rare.
Yeah.
Like really rare.
You could ask one of us to do it if there's some sort of mental block you have,
Yeah, because I'll admit it kind of opens me up to now being in like a communication level.
Yeah. So
I think there was
Broncos now. Yeah, it's like
right.
It's the next thing.
It turns into that, or there was one guy that wanted tickets to something like I think I had actually corresponded with him on one thing and then immediately turned into a ticket request. And I could tell.
Shoot.
Yeah, I could tell the way I was like, I already don't like the way, even just the way he asked. I was like, I don't like this guy at all. And then
he's reaching for the e-brake for the hard turn. I could see it.
Because then it was turning into like the person just was hate emailing, which is really, it was like
now
perfect.
He can. Because now he can.
Right. Yeah. It was like a simple thing. And then it was a request. The request was ignored. And then it was turning into guy was emailing pretty consistently. thinking that he was like catching me in something and really want to let me have it. Like, oh, you said this last year, but then you said this. It was like, Jesus Christ, dude. Sorry. I don't know. So I guess we did work a little feedback in there. We talked to the guys about the TVs. We had somebody from the World War II Museum reach out and say, hey, there's more of a backstory of why the World War II Museum is in New Orleans, which I did not know at the time. I know that's my bad. I hit the guy up and said, hey, my bad, whatever. We explained it all. So every now and then, but it's pretty rare. I would say probably less than 2 times a year on average.
Think about how much stuff we're missing out on 2 times a year average. Don't even want to think about it, honestly.
I know the number of solar panel discounts that you guys have missed out on. We'd have both of you guys off any electric
box
dependency.
Meal delivery. Yeah.
All right. We need a couple more.
And you got a history fact, right? I came with one too, just in case yours fell flat or you didn't have one.
No, I have one, but I love that you have one. All right. Airplanes and golf. I know Ryan voicing over children's book was hot at one point, but I also find that listening to the pod on a flight knocks me out every time. On the flight I took this morning from LA to Mexico City, I was out before we even took off, which caps never happens to me. Kyle needs to expand his golf horizons beyond Roosevelt. You can barely hit driver on most of those holes. Is that true, Kyle?
I can barely hit driver anyway, buddy. I got news for you.
If you want your all-around game to get better, you have to put yourself out there in some real tracks. At least go play Harding right there in the park. Have you played Harding?
Sorry, you need a 10-day. You got to get that shit 10 days in advance. And, they had broken up the Korean golf racket, but I think maybe there's still some people slipping through the cracks. They were basically buying all the times immediately with bots. So anyway, it's hard to get in there. I've tried. Roosevelt, there's usually some times. And I don't like to golf alone. I'm not to that point where I'm like, I'm going to roll into this threesome and maybe you guys aren't even drinking beer. So like I'd like to be able to set the tone and maybe have one extra guy who has to, bend to our sort of philosophy of golf. So I'm just really not to the point where I'm just going to be throwing myself in random threesomes. So that's the answer to that.
How far are the holes at the course you play?
There's a couple, there's no par 5s. There's a couple par 4s, some par 3s. It's walking. I enjoy it. It's 9 holes. I can be back in 2.5 hours. So, on the way home, rides me past the frolic room if I do so decide. But a lot of times I'll just go right home because I'm like, hey, that was a great day outside. But no, I agree. Sometimes I play my buddy Tate's course at Braemar. That's nice. I get out there. It's just when we're trying to scramble for something, it's usually Roosevelt.
All right. We need to get you on my track down here.
I drove past it the other day, that El Segundo joint, next to the Topgolf. Is that the one you're talking about?
The Lakes, the par 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. Nighttime for you? Right.
I can make it work, man. I mean,
Writing a couple suds.
Yeah.
Kyle's like, I can make it work. What's going on here? All right. I don't think I'm reading this one. I think it's more to be critical of somebody else in the media. All right. This one says we're pre-qualified for a loan up to $40,000.
Really?
All 3 of us?
Yeah. No hard credit inquiry. Flexible repayment plans based on your income. We get a rate in less than 2 minutes. So should we? Oh, that might be spam.
What do you need? My social? Whatever you need.
If you guys are down to cosign, like, I'll think about it.
Okay, let's get to our. We'll do one more here. What's up, guys? Father of wild banshees who are placing nails behind neighbor Dick's tires, checking back in after a couple of years. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do. Never forgot that one.
I didn't leave a comp for my first email, so here goes. My freshman year pickup game comp was 2003 March Madness, Ricky Clemens. And like Ricky, after my teammates watched me launch hopeless threes in a close game, I never played again. I assure you the comp ends there. So here's the feedback. The mild feedback was funny, but in my opinion, the real debate comment came from Ryan when he comped 20 push-ups to 8 pull-ups. That is an absolutely no fucking way those two stats are comparable. 20 push-ups should be the absolute bare minimum any man not hooked up to a dialysis machine should be able to knock out regardless of training. It's like walking a mile for those who need to take their first steps towards reclaiming their life. 8 pull-ups, on the other hand, is not just hard, but maybe 8-minute mile pace half marathon hard. Ryan's comp had me so fired up, I made the goal of training until I got to 8 and then go for 11 so I could finally hit 3 that eluded me in my basketball career. I'm at 7. Thanks for the
try
entertainment.
Count backwards. See what happens.
Yeah, start at 11. When you get to 2, you're going to freak out. I think sometimes you guys will like lose your minds, not realizing we're just on flying around on some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't think 20 push-ups, especially if you're a certain weight, and 8 pull-ups, but it was kind of like would you brag about doing 5 pull-ups? You might about 20. But would you brag about 5? No. If you're a decent sized guy, you can still do 8 pull-ups. But pull-ups is a very specific thing. If you don't ever do it, you might not be able to do 1. And it doesn't mean that you're weak or anything. It just means your body's like, what the hell is this? We're doing these? We don't do these. So I think you have to kind of hear it that way. I think that was the whole point. Okay, history fact. Kyle.
Oh, me first. Okay.
Yeah.
I found this one kind of interesting. It aligns with my interests. I guess a lot of the like pubs in England and maybe scattered across the UK, the reason that they are, the Red Dog, the Blue Ox and all that stuff, it was really just because, there was a lot of illiterates out there, and that's how you get people to go into these bars. And I think that's made it across the pond just because that's how bars are named. But a lot of those, you just needed a picture of something so you could say where you're going, instead of like on 8th Street or whatever it was. I just found that really interesting, that the reason we have these beloved names of pubs that really sound like, why would it be that? Just because some guy had to draw a picture on the storefront. So I found that really interesting.
I love that. That's good. It makes sense. The Freckled Goose.
Right.
Do you have, hey, where are we meeting? You're not going to confuse that. How many could there be?
Brown Derby. Right.
That's good. Do you want anything to do with this, Wargon?
I don't have one prepared. I can quickly grab one if you want.
No, it's all right.
All right.
No. Don't. I didn't say anything. So that's on me. It's a bad coaching, bad teammate. Okay. When a team sweeps the other team in a series,
okay,
they get the brooms out.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. Sweep, broom. Let's bring the brooms. Do you know how that started?
No.
Well, that's from the Anglo-Dutch Wars. And what happened was, it's a British naval tradition where the British Navy wiped out the opponent so hard, because I was just reading about it, rereading Philbrick's Mayflower, banged it out pretty quick. Great book. Rereading Mayflower, I'd forgotten about that part of it. So basically, the British Navy at that time was so dominant, wiping out everybody else. And so it was a clean sweep of the area, a clean sweep victory. So they would then attach a broom to the mast as they would come back in to port to signify their dominance. So even though when you see a sweep in a series, it would make sense, like, hey, somebody grabbed a broom and brought it in to the garden or the forum or the spectrum. Speaking of sweeps, they would, have a broom, and it was like, hey, it makes a little more sense. But, next time you see it,
wow,
you could just turn to your buddy and be like, this reminds me of the Anglo-Dutch times.
What like century are we talking? You're saying Mayflower? So
Anglo-Dutch is 1650s.
Okay.
At least what I'm now pulling this up in front of me. If you actually Google this, all this stuff comes in pretty quick. But yeah. So a little backstory for you.
That's a great one.
Okay, that's Friday feedback. Yeah, no, I know. That's why I wanted you to go first. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Jonathan Frias for making this happen. And thanks to you, the listener, for sending in some stuff. Appreciate it.
They were going to name me Michael Jordan. My dad was like, I don't think he can live up to it. So they named me Michael Jared.
Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is there. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.